You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, a mom of two and your secret weapon to creating a six-figure digital product business. I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women make $100,000 a year. That's right, $100 million towards financial independence for women. As an online business expert, I am teaching you everything I know right here week after week, so you can join us on the journey to $100 million. Sound good? Then let's jump in. Today, I have a very special guest who's going to tell us how to manage our time better, get paid better for doing it, and get pretty good cash influxes into our business in one day. We are going to be talking about this concept of VIP days. And one of the cool parts is usually when I hear VIP day, I think of like a service provider who's going to build a website for you and they're going to do it in the container of one day instead of letting the service really draw out over, let's say, like a 6-week period. But the cool part of what we're going to talk about today is that we're going to hear how even course creators and people who run memberships or agency owners can use this concept as like a premier level offer in their business. And it also provides this really great way to get cash influxes into your business. So I'm really intrigued by this conversation, if you couldn't tell. So let me tell you who we're talking to. We're talking to Jordan Gill. She is an operations consultant and founder of Systems Saved Me. She helps overworked one-woman shows become streamlined solopreneurs. And her jam is creating a cohesive operating system for managing your tasks, files, and inbox. She's been on podcasts like What Works and CEO Vibes, sharing her love of replacing monthly retainers with one-day virtual intensives. So let's welcome Jordan onto the podcast and let's hear all about how we can implement VIP days in our business. And also, we're going to have a little bit of a talk about team building and the impact that we can make as business owners when we build a team. So let's dive right in. Jordan, welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Monica. I am so jazzed to talk about some of my favorite topics ever.
Yes, the big topic that you're known for, which I'm sure you're going to tell us about when I ask the first question, which is, I want to know about why you're an entrepreneur, your journey. Like, where did you start? Why are you doing this? And what are you doing today?
Yes. Where did I come from? So, it's interesting because I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, not because I was the typical like lemonade stand, Girl Scout cookies kind of gal, but because I've always liked doing things on my own time. Very maybe TMI example is when I was being born, I was about 2 weeks late. And my mom was like, I was literally going to induce you the next day. And that's the day you came because you heard that you were going to be forced out. And you were like, nah, like this is on my time. I decide when I come. And so basically from then on, my parents have had to deal with that kind of attitude, but serves me well as an entrepreneur. But for me, I had a background in kind of two areas, journalism and like writing, but then also in operations. So in my very short, like pre-online business career, it was mainly in sports operations. And so there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to the football games that you see on TV. There's all the things. Are there enough towels on the sideline? And is the right microphone on with the announcer, right? So I really enjoy the details. And coming out of sports, really because you don't get paid a lot in sports, I knew that I wanted to start kind of thinking about my entrepreneurial journey. And I started by getting an employee position with Melanie Duncan, who kind of isn't really in this space anymore. She's doing some other cool stuff, but I became her head of content. And that's a very like journalistic writing role and very systematic. Like you have to understand how to build courses essentially. So think of her as like the Beyonce and I'm the songwriter sort of scenario. And it was an awesome experience. I loved every second of it. It was total dream job for me. Was there for 2 years. and helped them grow. And it was awesome because it was an 8-figure business. So I got to see really behind the hood of what it takes to run an 8-figure online business before I even started my own business, which is a pretty big privilege. So for me, when it was like, okay, entrepreneurship, let's make it happen, it kind of came about as a sign of obedience for me. So for me, it's a God thing. For other people, it's universe or gut. But for me, it was God being like, it's time to go. And I was like, interesting. As a type A person, I would like plan. I would like to save up maybe some more, like all of the things. And it was like, nope, time to go. And so again, I obeyed and I gave 6 weeks notice because we were about to go into a big launch and started my business. And it was an interesting start in the sense that I was ready to like, do the hardcore entrepreneurial thing and live in like the dentist office basement and eat ramen, which would suck because I have celiac and can't eat gluten, but like I was here for it. And like, I was like, yes, like this is the hardcore stuff. And that was not my experience right off the bat. I was able to secure about $12,000 in monthly retainer revenue within the 6 weeks of me transitioning. And that was really solely based on relationships that I had built in the online business space while I was working for Melanie Duncan. I wasn't working for anyone, but I just would go to events and meet people and hang out. And so when I needed somebody and needed to raise my hand and say, hey, I need help, I need clients, I need to make this transition, people knew me and knew what I was great at and were like, awesome, like here's a list of people, like get on sales calls with them. I know they need somebody. And that's exactly how I started my business, was through connections and relationships, which is totally what I preach still to this day.
Yeah, I talk actually a lot about how I did not like networking in corporate. I think in hindsight, I know it's because it was in tech and it was playing a white man's game and I didn't want to play it.
Yeah.
And that's why I hated it. And I thought I wouldn't want to do it in the business. I thought, oh, I'm going to sit behind the computer by myself. It's going to be great. Yeah, that's not how any business runs. If you want a successful business, it's all about relationships. It doesn't matter if you're selling services or products, info products, physical products, you name it. It's all about who you know. It just is. It really is. And you know what? I've embraced it now. I think it's fun now, but it's also on my terms, like I'm not playing someone else's game and I'm not trying to get a seat at someone else's table,
Right.
So what year was this that you started the business?
2016. So May 2016.
And was it born as System Saved Me?
No, it was born as my first business name was Personalized Procedures. Okay. People thought I was a medical sales company. I was not. And that quickly, about 7 months later, changed to the Colada Group. And it was spelled Kolada, but it was a hint toward pina coladas because the branding group that I was working with were like, why do clients work with you? And I'm like, well, they want to be able to sip pina coladas on the beach and not worry about their business imploding. Right. And so the pina colada kind of became the symbol of my business. And pineapples still are to this day, which is really fun. And I had the Colada Group for about 1.5 years. And then finally I caved. And System Save Me was always my podcast name, but I was afraid of putting systems in my actual business name because people were afraid of systems. And I put that in air quotes. And so I was like, I didn't want to scare people about what I was doing. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like this is dumb. So I caved and moved into the System Save Me naming. And that's been so beneficial. And I've loved every second of it.
Okay. So what is it that System Saved Me was born as? Like, what were you doing to make me be able to go sip a pina colada on the beach? Right, like, put my business together.
Totally. So I started out with people really in the online business space. So 7-figure entrepreneurs who needed help with their systems, or so I would go in and like restructure their customer support systems or their membership delivery systems or things like that, and on an ongoing basis. And about like 5 or 6 months into my business, I call it Launchmageddon because 3 out of my 4 clients were launching at the same time. And it's one thing to be a part of one 7-figure launch, is another to be a part of 3 in the same month with clients who don't care that you're in other 7-figure launches that month. And I was like, this is for the birds. I was like, never again will this ever happen. And I let go of 2 clients the next month. I went down to 2 clients. So I had 4 starting out in May. Let go of 2 clients immediately, had 2 clients, and was like, I need to figure out a different way to run my business because this isn't working. Not interested here, but I still like working with clients and I enjoy the work that I'm doing, but I just don't want to do it in that way anymore. And so I realized that client management systems are actually what I enjoy the most out of all the different systems, because systems are everywhere. Your makeup routine is a system, your workout regimen is a system, but I really liked client relationship management systems. So think of like Dubsado, ActiveCampaign, even a little bit, HoneyBook, those sorts of tools. But I really like creating a client delivery system that is consistent and is done in the way of like pure excellence. And so that's really when VIP days came about and whatnot. They entered my world and started this whole empire, I suppose. But yeah, so I was helping people with their client relationship management software when I was transitioning.
All right. So tell me about this VIP day thing, because I feel like this really changed a lot of people's lives that I know in the industry. It like spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I'll say it after you tell us what it is, because some people might be like, a VIP day? What are you talking about?
Yep.
So inform us.
Right.
What is it?
Yes. So how I define VIP days, you may have heard them as day rates, intensives, of the like. They're all pretty similar / the same. But how I define VIP days is that they are a 4-figure offering. I like to lead with the money. They are a 4-figure offering that lasts 3 to 8 hours that lead your client through a transformation or method. And that's different than a strategy session or like a discovery session that someone's paying just to like ask you anything or pick your brain. A VIP day rate intensive really is leading somebody through your framework or your method. And so think of it like someone can build your website in a day, or someone can create, your child sleep training plan in a day. Like it can kind of range and whatnot, because VIP days are super flexible and awesome. But I would say that's the easiest way to define VIP days.
So when you came across this idea of a VIP day, you were actually the service provider doing the VIP day. So what were you offering for your VIP day?
Yes. So I was working with seasonal, mainly offline businesses, oddly enough.
Interesting.
Seasonal offline businesses. So think of like wedding planners, hail damage consultants, grape consultants for like wineries, because there's an on and off season of harvest and busy times, tax professionals. So it was a very, honestly, I look back, I'm like, how did that happen? But that's who I normally worked with. And I worked with them during their off seasons. And so again, that's where they're resetting for the next busy season. And they're wanting to get their systems in order because their past on season or busy season was chaotic, and they're wanting support to make that not happen again. So I would help them build their client management process and delivery and try to automate about 60 to 70% of what they were doing to keep the client delivery consistent. And again, keep that level of excellence that I love talking about, and allow them to stay in their zones of genius with their clients instead of like all the manual minutia that kind of drowns us as service providers.
And you did this in a 3 to 8 hour container?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, how? But I guess in my mind, the bigger question is how much legwork had to go into like prepping so that you could get it done in that container? Because that seems like a pretty massive undertaking for a day's work.
Yeah. So I didn't work with new businesses. So we weren't really starting from a blank slate, and that's helpful. So I was really doing, and sometimes there would be where I had to integrate them into a new software. Sometimes they had the software, they just weren't using it, or maximizing it as they could have been. So there's ways to, again, when you start from a blank slate, that is a lot. That is a lot of work. And when I was working with people, they generally already knew what was broken, what was chaotic, what was messy, what was slow. I would find additional things, but it was a really pretty yellow brick road. And so I created my own framework that helped me to take any business, input it into my framework. And I was able to clearly see where the gaps were, what was missing, what needed to be created. And my pre-work usually took like a couple hours for my clients. So I needed to know all the software they were using for everything. I needed to know, again, where not only the business owner thought the gaps were, but okay, the core team members that you have, what was their opinions of what was missing and messy. And so I was then able to, again, when you have a framework or a method, that automatically speeds up the process because you're not having to rely on your brain. As much as we all like to do that, our brain is not the most reliable source of truth because you're having so many thoughts and things going through it. So for me, it's about the framework and it's about asking the right and enough questions up front to where then I'm set up for success on the actual day of the VIP day.
Well, yeah, it makes sense to work in a framework too, because can you imagine if you had to do custom, like start from scratch every time like that? There's no way you probably could do it in a container of a day or you'd burn out.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
So tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that what happened was that you were finding you were making a lot of money and not working very many days. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a couple of chronic illnesses, chronic fatigue being one of them. And so I cannot really work past 6 hours. My VIP days are 6 hours. Otherwise, I get really exhausted, and that will last for days, even up to a week. So I have to manage my energy. Like it's not really a choice for me. I cannot prescribe to the hustle. I can't prescribe to the grind. And so for me, I had to figure out a way because those longer term containers, monthly retainers were so draining to me. And because it was based on hourly, it was like, I had to like work the amount of hours in order to get paid, but like I'm really efficient with my time. So it actually takes me less time and now it's awkward. So, I was really grateful that with VIP days, I really worked with clients for maybe 6 a month. So that's 4 to 6 days a month. I worked 3-day work weeks, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. And so I would spend a couple days marketing, 1 day delivering, and then I would have 4-day weekends every weekend. And people were like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? And I would be making like 20, 25K months.
And your overhead was probably like nil.
Exactly. I didn't have any team members. I really just needed like Zoom, Dubsado, Acuity.
I mean, honestly, this really is sounding like a pretty good model if you ask me.
I know, right? Sometimes I do question. I'm like, why am I doing all this? It was so simple before, and that really helped me heal because I was kind of coming again with the Launchmageddon that I had. Like that was extreme burnout for me, extreme exhaustion. And I had to do a lot of healing and that took time. So I'm just really grateful that I was able to create that space and still have a business that supported me taking the space that I needed to heal.
So when did the brilliant idea come to teach other people how to do this? and when? Give us a time frame here of when that happened.
Totally. So again, I had my first VIP day at the end of 2016. And then, it pretty much was like, all right, like I'm all in on VIP days. And I let go of my final 2-month retainers early 2017. I have not taken a monthly retainer since. It felt so good. And so I did a couple of years where like VIP days were like my main thing, 2017, 2018, 2019, even. End of 2019, people were starting to like really question me about VIP days, mainly because I am a systems like services person doing VIP days, and people thought of VIP days being more coaching or like you go and sit in the Ritz-Carlton and like sip champagne sort of scenarios. And they're like, you're not doing that. What are you doing over there? And so you get asked, enough times, Monica, as you are aware in your expertise, you get asked, quite a few times about something. You're like, should I be doing something with this? Like, is this a thing? But it was interesting because I felt very special snowflakey, as we all do. I'm like, I'm the outlier. Like I'm the only one who could possibly make VIP days work for me like this, which is so silly. But it was definitely like a fear of just like, I don't know if I can teach other people to do this. Like, I've only been able to do this really for myself. What if like I am the special snowflake and I don't want to hurt other people or, cause harm? So I joined, who we know mutually and are in, Mariah's group coaching program, having no idea what my group coaching program was actually going to be about.
Really? So you joined high ticket, not
yes.
her accelerator, the actual high ticket program.
Yes. Having no idea. It's like, I don't know, like sometimes, I question I don't know if it's naivete or just like fra la la, I don't know. Anyway, but I joined, and what was funny is I was like, but my group coaching program is not going to be about VIP days. Like, I was very adamant about that. Why? I'm not sure. Again, I think it was just all fear. And, as I was going through the program, and I got the coaching, it was like, oh, okay, maybe it is about that. Like, maybe it could work. Like, maybe I can actually help people with this, because I remember when I first heard about VIP days, and like, I was so grateful that someone else told me about this. And what if there are other people that I could be helping that were in a similar place that I was in, burnt out, exhausted, wondering if entrepreneurship was even right for me? Like, what if there were those people still out there and I could help them with that and make it easier? So warmed up to it. And that was early 2020. And then the week that everything shut down, March 2020, was when I decided to launch. It was already pre-planned, right, for that time frame, but I was like, oh my gosh. And I had launched my Now Is Done in a Day, which is my group coaching program, and had my first 17 people join. And pretty much the rest is history. Yeah, we're just rocking and rolling.
That's an incredible story. I mean, I don't think I realized that's how teaching it came about. Wow. Okay. So I have questions. First of all, do you work with, so I have never been a service provider in the online space. It just, part of it didn't resonate with me. Well, for a lot of reasons, what you said, you're on other people's deadlines. And I'm like, no, I want to be an entrepreneur to answer to myself. This is why I left corporate.
Exactly.
So it just I turned down contracts. I turned down lots of work that came my way. But I've realized that it seems to me that VIP days could work for someone like me who's not a typical service provider, because I do have a skill. I have a few skills in this online space, but I could help someone make significant, because I teach it. So I could do it in a container of a day and more of a done for you. It would have to cost a lot compared to, what I make in my programs, but so it could work for someone like me, but it's the predominant, person you get in the group service providers already.
It's interesting. It's shifting. Like, we're kind of in this interesting spot currently as of today. I would say up until this point, it has been service providers and even some coaches, but majority, I would say 70, 80% service providers. We just had a launch, and we brought in 78 people in a week and a half span. Yeah. Which was awesome. And it's been a really interesting mix. We have quite a few people who are making close to $1 million revenue that have memberships or have an agency or have something else kind of running in the background, but they want to be able to lift up and do some VIP days when they want to, and work with a more, what Mariah calls champagne client of the people that they normally work with. And they want to do that in VIP days. And it's been really awesome to see how that's happened. And, they're able to sell them obviously fairly quickly and whatnot, because they have the audience. But yeah, we've been actually seeing a trend again in the last month of people who have, again, 50 to 70,000 coming in from courses, memberships, agency, that are wanting to do VIP days themselves in a fun, close container the boundaries are very straightforward of what it is. And it's been refreshing. It's been fun for them.
Yeah. Cause I can see it being a nice cash injection. Like, I have a team, so, it doesn't even have to be me and I'm saying this so no one email me. I'm not doing dumb for you right now, It's not that it hasn't occurred to me. I like understanding all the levers I can pull to make revenue. And this is why it's very fascinating to me because, like Mariah has this concept of champagne level client. So it's like this whole client continuum, and it's a very fascinating thing. I think she actually has like a training to go to mariahcost.com. You can watch it because I can't do it justice in a snippet, but essentially it would be like me working with my highest level student, so because that's the caliber that my VIP day would have to be at for it to be worth it for me to do it. So, it's a fascinating idea. So, okay. So can you give us examples of just like maybe one or two example of someone, you don't have to like tell us their name or anything, but the type of industry that you've seen it work really well with?
Yeah, there's been quite a few, but one has been in the online industry. I know somebody who she's making like 6 to 8 mil with her group program, and her VIP days are 25K, and it's all her team run. So it's centered around like building a funnel for your membership. So her team actually, like, she sits in the room, but like she's like, I'm not really the one talking. Like I'm there, and like I'll have my sprinkle of things, but really it's my team poking out the strategy, and there's no implementation. So this is 25K for pure strategy.
Wow.
And it is her team delivering it. She could technically not be in the room if she didn't want to, but she enjoys it and whatever else. So, and hers are in person and whatnot. So that's one example. Another one is lawyers. So I think it's 10K, and she helps lawyers build out their agency. And again, it's a very strategy oriented VIP day. And so, she like tossed it out in a Facebook group post and like sold 7 of them. And I was like, that's fun.
A little cash injection.
Right. Exactly. And so, so she helps lawyers specifically building out the agency side. So those are a couple that pin out. I think I have another one who's pretty high up and does well with SEO and has an SEO VIP day and helping people strategize with that.
I have to say that for someone at my level where I can pay for things to make my life easier in both my personal and business life, VIP days, they are very attractive from a buyer's standpoint. Very attractive. Our podcast notes desperately need to be better SEO'd. I know this because it's just like a snippet that we put up there, and we have the transcript because that's really important as well, but we don't really optimize it right now. I would totally pay for a VIP day to optimize all of my, because it's a little bit of a waste not to. I just was in a talk with someone who does tax strategy. So I'm at that kind of like at that cusp where it's like, so I have my compliance and I have my bookkeeper and I have my lawyer, and I'm like, but now I pay a lot of taxes. There's probably something I have to do about this. And there was someone offering a VIP day on that. And it's like, okay, that's so much better than me having to go find someone to put on like a retainer. And plus I get to find out if we jive well together, probably get some good tips out of it. I would, and I just don't have the time either. Like I don't have the time to go back and forth with the tax strategist right now. My time's so finite. Right. I would pay for it with HR stuff. Like I would pay for so many VIP days. So I just kind of feel so it's like a twofold thing. It really helps the service provider and or someone in the coach membership agency, have that cash injection, not be scope creep is going to be a lot more contained. But then on the flip side, someone like, in my position who I'm not going to hire someone on payroll for it. I don't want an ongoing contractor for it. And I also think it makes certain services more accessible to people that wouldn't otherwise be accessible. Because like, even like if you had asked me a year ago if I was going to hire a tax strategist, like who could afford that? What is that? And where do I find it? Like I had all these questions. It seems so bizarre. Like a year ago, that concept was so bizarre to me. And now I'm like, still, I don't want to commit to it for like a year or something right now. I'm really just like feeling it out. So it's really making it accessible to people, like these high level services accessible to people that wouldn't otherwise be, accessible.
It really is. And, too, when it comes to longer containers for tax strategy, for example, it's like, I kind of want to feel it out first. I don't want to sign a year, 6 month minimum situation when like I don't know you. Like, we haven't worked together before. Like, I kind of want to feel it out. And then, a lot of people in my program, like, they use their VIPs as qualifying offers, is how I frame it, in the sense that, like, you and your clients are filling each other out. And if it's not a good fit for you both, then you don't have to, like, give them the monthly retainer. You can just be like, great, like, you were served, all is well. Like, we got you to the point that you wanted for today. And, like, we can go our separate ways. Or if you all jive, you enjoyed each other, you, like, want to make this a thing, like, then let's, like, do 6 months or a year or whatever the case is.
Which is also brilliant, because getting in a contract with someone who you're not going to have a good working relationship with is miserable. It's the worst. Okay. So in March of 2020, this was not a thing. And suddenly, as the world's shutting down, you get 17 students in, it becomes a thing. And now you have how many active students?
130 active as of today.
And it's a 6-month program?
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah. We've had 270 go through it since March.
Which is awesome. So now you went from not having a team? Like in March of 2020, how many people were you working with in your business?
I had 3 very, very part-time contractors. And it was really me anticipating like needing program help, because in my like VIP day business, again, I didn't really necessarily need anyone, but it was kind of in anticipation of this program doing well, which thankfully it has. But yeah, we started with 3 very, very part-time contractors.
And now you have?
We have 9 total team members, which 6 of those are full-time employees.
Did it stress you out?
Oh gosh. I've always known I wanted a team, because I think that it's one of those things where you see people in companies and businesses or friends of mine and stuff like that, where they're like really smart and they're like, they've got it going on. And yet in their companies, they can't shine. Like, they can't actually be how brilliant they are because of all of the corporate nonsense happening. And I was like, it'd be really awesome. Like, what would happen if like I could create a team and a company experience and business where like the most brilliant, dope people in their respective areas got to actually be brilliant. Like, what would that look like? What would have to happen in order to attract those types of people and have it be a really cohesive culture? And so, it was not, again, baby steps. The first person that I had become an employee was in September of 2020. So again, I still was kind of like figuring out contractors and all of that. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to like go all in. And so I started the first person as a full-time employee. And then, we're continually hiring. There's some people who leave, there's some people who come. It's like, team fluctuations. And it was interesting because the people that have been on my team the longest, that started out as contractors, they came to me and were like, how do I work here like all day? Like, I just want you I just want to work with you. And that was such a beautiful like honor to hear, because I wanted to be able to commit to them as well and create an environment that they felt safe, they felt secure in an employee situation, because, nothing is really secure, right, in the grand scheme of things. But from their perspective, they wanted the security to come from me versus corporate or other gigs that they had to take. And so I had to really think about that. And so we just started basically hiring employees only starting in 2021. And so that has been, I mean, listen, if you are an employee somewhere, there's a lot of tax situations, a lot of policies, a lot of like just parameters around that. So like, even if you hate your job, just like give them a little bit of blessing, because it's a lot of stuff to go through in order to like make that happen. And I think that people are like, oh, just like hire me as an employee. And I'm like, dude, like it is a process. Okay.
It really is.
So it really is. And I was fully unaware of that before having employees. And so, I can sit here and say today that my team is A players, and it's one of those things that you think about and dream about. And every person that's come on my team and come off my team is still amazing. But the people who've stuck around and the people who've continually hired are truly like brilliant in their respective areas. And it is such a blessing to be able to create that culture and to nurture that, because that's really what people want when they come into a company, is they want to be able to shine and they want to be able to become the best. And we have professional development budgets for them to do that. And, we have different policies in place, like unlimited vacation, like take your mental health days, take your vacations, like go be great, because the more great you feel in all aspects of your life, the better you're going to show up in our business and in our company.
I love it. One of the things I really realized this year for myself was, so I pivoted my business completely in 2020 because why not? Pandemic year, let's just blow up. We built this house and I'm like, I'm going to blow up my biggest revenue source. Do you mind, husband? And he's like, whoa. I was like, it's going to work out. It did, luckily. I mean, I wasn't that flippant about it, but it was a pretty big deal. And part of the reason I blew it up was because of this idea that I really need to feel like I'm making an impact for me to be motivated.
Totally.
And one of the things I realized coming into 2021, that it's not just who like our customers are that we're impacting. It is the ability to impact other women by employing them. And that just bleeds into so many other things. Like I actually run 2 payrolls. I have a business payroll and I have a nanny on payroll, and just, I think of all the contractors I hire in the business and outside of the business. And it's actually really rewarding to think about all the impact that you can make around you by having a business and making money. And then you can put it in areas where you're not just helping your life, but other people's lives. I do find that part very, very rewarding. That's like, and I am a little bit of I'm really detail oriented. I think you are too. So I actually just redid our employee handbook and I enjoyed it. We added some benefits, like we're starting a retirement plan in 2022 and we're doing some cool things. And so I got the great idea from Mariah to do the stipend. We're, cause it's hard. My husband's in corporate, so I have health insurance through my husband. But like, so what do I do with that? We're not quite big enough to really have a policy in the business. So we started the stipend to open it up and include things like daycare and stuff. And like, that's cool,
It's so cool. It is such an honor to be able to support the lives of my team members. I agree with you that the impact isn't just your clients. Like it really is your team and how they impact your clients and how it just, it all stacks up. And, I think that it is scary to feel like you're quote unquote responsible, with air quotes, for someone's livelihood and like them being able to pay their bills. There is that initial fear of like, okay, I just got used to paying my own bills. Like now I gotta like worry about everybody else's bills, in your own mind. And like, I've always hired before I was ready, if I could, which also has been a lot more beneficial because when you're hiring, when they're like way behind, then it does feel like, oh my gosh, I'm like, not only do I have all these things that need to be done, but now money and my time are both coming out and it feels like we're just bleeding in every way, shape, or form. But there is just something really lovely about creating that impact in a deeper way through employment. Like you said, I think that it's a really awesome gift.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay. So how can we learn about VIP days? I'm like almost tempted. You like sold me and I'm thinking I can't do anything different. I have too much on my plate right now, but I am actually very tempted. Maybe I'll put it on my wish list of things, maybe 2022 or something. But how do people find you?
Yeah, totally. I'm very good at overcoming all of the objections to VIP days. I've been studying it and being obsessive about it for a year and a half. But if you want to learn more about VIP days, some of the best places are our website has like a ton of resources. There's a quiz on there about which type of VIP day you should create. We have a bunch of different resources, freebies and whatnot. So that's just systemsaving.com. And then Instagram, we have a ton of content, IGTVs, Reels, you name it, over there. So it's System Saved Me, plural systems, not just one. And then I would say those are probably the main two places. We do have our podcast, but it's on pause right now. But there are back episodes that you can listen to about VIP days as well. Not a shocker, System Saved Me, on any of the podcast platforms. And yeah, I would say those three places are the best.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely link to them in the show notes for you too.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us and telling us all this great stuff.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Monica. It was awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered Business Podcast. If you want to get started creating your own digital products and don't know where to start, we have a brand new training that can help. It's called Passion to Profit: How to Discover Your Unique $1 Million Digital Product Formula. Head on over to empoweredbusiness.co/profit to join the training for free. Plus, we've added on a private podcast feed to make consuming the content even easier. You can choose to consume it via video or a private podcast feed. I can't wait to see you back here next week.